Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the press room. Please take your seats. All right. Thank you. So again, good afternoon and welcome to our midday briefing. The meeting of the heads of cabinet of the European Commission is still ongoing, so unfortunately we cannot yet share the agenda and the press arrangements around the college meeting tomorrow, but we will of course do so via our usual channels later today, so stay tuned, I would say. I would also like to remind you that we are organizing two technical briefings today after our meeting here for the midday briefing. At 2 p.m. we will have a technical briefing off the record on the Union of Skills under embargo. And at 3 p.m. we will have a technical briefing off the record on the defense package that President von der Leyen announced this morning. So you will have the opportunity to ask your many questions on these very important topics to the experts of the European Commission. Other than that, I'm happy to welcome two groups of visitors that are joining us today. We have 27 journalists from the Matzak Media Group and 22 journalists from Sweden. I hope you enjoy your time in this press room in Brussels with the European Commission. And we hope to see you soon later on another occasion as well, of course. But with that, let us now take your questions. Jorge.
Hello, Stefan. I want to ask about President Trump's decision to temporarily suspend aid for Ukraine that we just learned about. How do you assess this decision? Because it's going to have great implications for the country. Do you think it's helpful for the negotiations? And do you think the European Union can make up for the absence of American assistance at this stage, even if it becomes a permanent suspension? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for this question. I don't think it's up to us to comment on decisions or announcements that are made on the other side of the Atlantic. What I think remains extremely important is the unwavering support of the European Union towards our friends in Ukraine. It suffices to look at the important amounts of financial support that we have provided to Ukraine and we continue to provide to Ukraine, to see that we put our money where our mouth is. We have supported Ukraine with 150 billion. I'm sorry, excuse me. We are offering quite some important support to the European Union, including through I meant 140 billion, excuse me, which includes 50 billion in military support, and we have trained more than 73,000 Ukrainian troops. This solidarity remains extremely important. You have seen the important meetings that have taken place in London, the many statements that have been made, and if one thing is extremely clear, it is this unity that continues to be very strong to support our Ukrainian friends. Thank you. Jorge.
Yes, but it's still not clear if you think you are ready as European Union to fill this gap that the American could leave behind. How much military support are you expecting to provide Ukraine this year? And is the High Representative still planning to move ahead with her new special plan to ramp up military support for Ukraine? Thank you.
Okay, on the first issue, what I would like to draw your attention indeed to the letter that the President of the European Commission has sent to the members of the European Commission, calling for more spending, better spending, and spending together in the area of defense. And this is very important. The President has presented her ideas, which will feed into the discussions that will take place with the leaders on the 6th of March, and then we will see how things will be taken forward. With regard to the HRVP, I call Anwar.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Jorge, for the question. Look, the High Representative has put forward a new defense initiative to support Ukraine with more ammunition in the short term. What I can say is that there was broad political support for the initiative at the last Foreign Affairs Council, and that this issue remains under active discussion ahead of the European Council.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Yes.
Actually, Valeria Pashko, the public broadcaster of Ukraine. So, will the EU be able to replace all the US military assistance for Ukraine, especially anti-ballistic air defense systems, such as Patriots and missiles to them, intelligence data, and Lynx, which are essential for Ukraine on the battlefield? And one more probably about the Hungary, which was blocked the military assistance package for Ukraine. The Politico reported in the morning. Maybe you have some alternatives to this package, which is worth of 20 billion euros. Maybe you have some decision how to bypass the Hungarian veto. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Maybe I would like to draw your attention to, again, the letter that President von der Leyen has sent to the different heads of state to feed the debate that will take place on the 6th of March, and where a letter in which the President proposes the Rearm Europe plan. And you will see that one of the first pillars is to establish a new financial EU instrument to support member states in boosting their defense capabilities. This system would provide member states with loans backed by the EU budget for an amount of up to 150 billion euros. An instrument and funding that can be used for priority capabilities, including air and missile defense, artillery systems, missiles and ammunition, and so on. So I think a very important message that is passed here by the President is that we have to speed up, reinforce, have better and more defense spending, and we will help member states to do that. On the question, on your second question, I call Thomas.
Hello, thanks, Stefan. And indeed, to add to what Stefan said, we also have EDF, ASAP, and EDIP, for example, that are, EDIP is still pending with the co-legislators, where we also invest and innovate in new technologies and capabilities also in the defense sector. So we're already working on that also for the last years now. When it comes to Starlink and your question, I mean, we are working very hard on IRIS². Now, fully with you, IRIS² will be fully operational only by 2030. So in the meantime, we're setting up an alternative solution, which is the so-called GovSatcom, which is basically a pooling and sharing of existing satellite capabilities within member states, already existing capabilities. Ukraine has expressed its interests in the benefits of GovSatcom, and we're currently looking into this indeed.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Yes.
Giovanni Del Re for the Italian newspaper Avvenire. I have to be, I'm quite surprised that having such a historical announcement by President Trump, you say that you have no comments. By the way, you have plenty of commentaries from the other side of Washington, so it's not that you never comment what Washington says. So are you really not commenting the fact that the main ally, what has been the main ally of Europe and the main supporter of Ukraine is now going away? You really have nothing to say, not even that you regret it, that you're worried, that you hope that the pause can be over? So nothing at all? Thank you.
I can restate or re-explain or say again what I've said before, that we are stepping up our efforts, and stepping up these efforts is translated in many steps. An important step is, for instance, the announcement of the Rearm Europe proposal that the President made this morning, and which will offer which will help member states to offer substantial support to Ukraine, a country that needs our support very much. Follow up here.
Sorry, but it is practical. It's just an answer on what you are going to do. But there is no political comment on the issue.
I can again say what we say. We stand with Ukraine. We know that it is important to support Ukraine also in its defense, also to make sure that it's in a better negotiation place. And we are putting our money where our mouth is by making the very important proposal that the President has just done now, and we'll see how things will evolve further. Yes.
Angela Scugins from TVP World. When can journalists ask the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen questions about her Rearm Europe plan? She wasn't taking questions at the press conference today, and this is a significant announcement. So when is that opportunity going to be presented to journalists?
Thank you very much. I think you have seen in the past that the President has already taken questions and continues to take questions, so there is nothing new here. In the meantime, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. But I believe that opportunities have been given and will continue to be given to make sure that there's a good understanding of all the important work that's ongoing. Yes.
Razia Akoch, AFP News Agency. I really just want to jump onto that point. We weren't given the opportunity to ask questions about an announcement. And right now you've said that some of what the US decisions are political. So you can see why some of us might be confused that you're saying that you can't provide the answers and then the politicians can't provide the answers. And I think it's really not appropriate and the way that we do our work, it just doesn't work like that.
Thank you very much. I think we're trying every day to help you handling or replying to your questions, which are extremely important, and we do our best to service you as much as possible. One of the things that we are doing, for instance, to help you with this, because indeed this is a very important step or proposal, is to offer a technical briefing with one of the hot shots of the European Commission that will help you all with a better understanding of what is behind the proposal, how things are planned to work out, etc. So we continue to do that work as much as we can. David.
Merci Stéphane. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Je vais essayer en français, peut-être qu'on aura des réponses. En fait, j'ai trois questions. La première, c'est très direct. Est-ce que la Commission européenne considère que les États-Unis aujourd'hui, la présidente de la Commission considère que les États-Unis aujourd'hui, avec l'administration Trump et les décisions qu'elle est en train de prendre et elle a déjà pris, est encore un allié? Deuxième question, c'est un follow-up à les questions qui ont été déjà posées par mes collègues. Non, pas de problème. Deuxième question, follow-up à la question. L'Ukraine ne va plus recevoir d'aide militaire de la part des États-Unis. La question est très simple. Est-ce que les Européens, selon la planification que j'espère, je ne suis pas sûr, mais j'espère que vous avez fait à l'EAS ou à l'agence de défense ou dans la commission à défi ou je ne sais pas où, est-ce que les Européens sont capables d'envoyer les intercepteurs, les missiles qui sont nécessaires pour protéger les villes et les citoyens ukrainiens aujourd'hui, pas le jour où le nouveau instrument, les 150 milliards, seront utilisables par les États membres pour aider l'Ukraine. Troisième question, c'est la question que j'ai posée hier, vu que Mme von der Leyen a textuellement dit que tout ça est très urgent. Pourquoi la présidente a attendu mars 2025 pour faire ses propositions au lieu de les présenter en juin 2024 quand elle aurait dû, selon les conclusions du Conseil européen de mars 2024? Merci.
Beaucoup, David. Je vais répondre en français et donner le même type de réponse. D'abord, en ce qui concerne les États-Unis, oui, les États-Unis sont un allié, comme je pense la présidente l'a encore souligné aujourd'hui. Deuxièmement, en ce qui concerne la deuxième question sur l'aide, l'assistance qu'on peut apporter en ce moment à l'Ukraine, je voudrais attirer l'attention encore une fois sur la lettre que la présidente a écrite au chef d'État où elle a expliqué en des termes très clairs que now it's time to meet the moment. Il est important de mobiliser nos ressources, des ressources importantes pour aider nos amis en Ukraine et c'est exactement ce que la proposition Rearm voudrait faire. Pour d'autres questions là-dessus, peut-être que je t'inviterai à aussi voir avec le technical briefing où nos experts seront peut-être en mesure de donner plus d'informations. Sur ta troisième question, oui, tu as posé cette question hier, oui, et je pense que Paula a répondu à cette question. Beaucoup de choses se sont passées évidemment entre juin et maintenant, avec l'arrivée d'une nouvelle commission, les évolutions géopolitiques, l'importance de la défense avait déjà été soulignée par la présidente bien avant, mais évidemment, prenant en considération les nouvelles évolutions, la Commission a maintenant, par exemple, avec la proposition de Rearm, remis sur la table une proposition très importante qui permettra les États membres à faire face à tous ces défis et à investir plus dans la défense parce que c'est quelque chose dont l'Union européenne a besoin et dont l'Ukraine a aussi besoin. Donc ce travail continue. David, tu as un follow-up.
Oui, j'ai un follow-up par rapport à la réponse de Paola hier que tu viens de reproposer sur le fait qu'il y a une nouvelle commission. La commission est une institution, mais pas seulement un organe entre guillemets politique. Et il y a une continuité de l'institution. Donc, je ne comprends pas, ou je te demande, comment c'est possible qu'une institution arrête en temps de guerre, arrête de travailler sur un sujet si important parce qu'on attend le nouveau cycle institutionnel, les élections, etc. L'urgence était là. Il y avait une guerre sur le territoire européen, il y a une guerre aujourd'hui. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut attendre? Les chars qui entrent dans les pays européens pour avoir ce que le Conseil européen, les leaders européens, pas David Carretta, tout le monde s'en fout de David Carretta. Donc, ce que eux ont demandé à la présidente en mars 2024.
Que je m'en fous pas de David Carretta, c'est une première chose. Deuxièmement, je viens d'expliquer que l'Union européenne a soutenu l'Ukraine avec 140 milliards d'euros, dont 52 milliards de soutien militaire. Ça, c'est un soutien sur lequel nous avons commencé à travailler immédiatement suivant cette invasion par la Russie de l'Ukraine. Donc, dès le début, on était là pour soutenir nos amis ukrainiens avec du soutien financier, avec du soutien militaire. Ce travail est déjà en cours depuis le début de cette invasion, de cette guerre d'agression. Et donc, le travail n'a pas arrêté. Mais évidemment, entre-temps, nous avons eu une évolution. Nous avons eu des élections aux États-Unis, par exemple. Nous avons des nouveaux défis géopolitiques, je dirais. Et c'est très important que la Commission, qui continue à faire ce travail depuis le début de la guerre, continue à répondre de la manière la plus appropriée à ces défis, dont, par exemple, la proposition de Rearm que la présidente vient de faire ce matin. Merci. Oui.
Angela Mauro of Post Italy, thanks for the opportunity. I have three questions. The Chancellor of the President Zelensky, Podolyak, just said that we are discussing with European partners on how to substitute the American military aids. What do you reply to this? So I'm taking it from the other side. And as you mentioned it before, I don't know, maybe this is a question for the technical briefing, but you mentioned before the 150 billion loans the President was talks about in a letter to the Member States. If you can just tell us what it is, if it is a sure 2.0 or common debt, or what, or the use of the remainings from the recovery facility. And the third question is about the white paper on defence. Will it be actually presented on the 19th of March as we knew, or it is postponed to the following week? Thanks.
Thank you very much. On your first question, well, I reiterate what I have said before. It's the fact that the President has stressed on many occasions that the European Union needs to spend more, needs to spend better, and needs to spend together on defense to help our friends in Ukraine. And a last step, and a very important step, which has been taken, is the rearm proposal proposed by the President, which will indeed be discussed by the heads of state, and which is a very important sign, again, to show our solidarity with Ukraine. On your second question, I would suggest that we discuss this question during the technical briefing, where much smarter people than myself will be able to help you. On the last question, on the white paper, you know that this has been announced in the liste des points prévus, as we say in beautiful English, the provisional calendar. It is there. Of course, you always have to bear in mind that this is a provisional, indicative calendar, that changes are always possible, but for now, indeed, it has been planned to be adopted on the 19th of March. Thank you. Go to that side of the room. Yes.
Bonjour, j'ai deux questions. La première, je pense pour Thomas. GovSatcom, est-ce que tu peux nous préciser un peu sous combien de temps il serait opérationnel et s'il pourrait remplacer vraiment Starlink? Et plus globalement, ce matin, la présidente donne des chiffres qui claquent quand même, 800 milliards, 600 milliards, dont 600 milliards proviendrait d'une augmentation des dépenses d'1,5% du PIB des États. Je voulais savoir sur quelle base elle avait avancé ce chiffre. Est-ce que les États se sont engagés auprès d'elle à faire ça? Pourquoi 1,5? Pourquoi pas 2,5? Pourquoi cette annonce de ces milliards? Merci.
Deuxième question, et puis tu prends la première. Je pense que la présidente a donné un exemple pendant sa déclaration de ce matin. Elle a dit, par exemple, si les États membres augmentent leurs dépenses sur la défense avec 1,5%, ceci pourrait créer des possibilités de financer environ 650 milliards pendant la période de 4 ans. Donc il s'agit d'un exemple que la présidente a donné pour démontrer l'importance de cette proposition qu'elle a faite dans ReArm. Mais évidemment, c'est une possibilité que nous offrons aux États membres, et c'est aux États membres de voir dans quelle mesure ça peut les aider dans les investissements nécessaires dans la défense. Pour votre question.
Et par rapport à GovSatcom, effectivement, GovSatcom permet donc d'utiliser les ressources et les capacités satellitaires aujourd'hui déjà existantes au sein des États membres. On parle ici de la France, de l'Allemagne, de l'Italie, du Luxembourg, et de faire bénéficier justement aux autres États membres et à des partenaires potentiellement comme l'Ukraine de bénéficier de ces services. Alors GovSatcom sera déployé cette année. On essaie d'être bien entendu le plus rapide et le plus efficace possible. Je n'ai pas de calendrier plus précis que cette année-ci. Le vrai outil qui nous permettra effectivement d'être vraiment compétitif face à Starlink, ce sera surtout Iris au carré. On était ici au mois de décembre aussi pour présenter le consortium qui avait été signé. Maintenant, GovSatcom présentera justement des options déjà très avancées pour permettre à nous de faire face à des phénomènes tels que l'Ukraine les rencontre aujourd'hui.
Merci. Je vois encore des questions dans la salle. Ok, Lorenzo, et puis je vais prendre quelques questions dans l'interaction.
Le problème, c'est que Starlink a les orbites basses et a donc des performances que GovSatcom n'a pas. Est-ce qu'il y a un projet d'anticiper Iris parce que sans Iris et sans Starlink, sans les Américains, on a un problème là.
On est aujourd'hui face à une réalité, effectivement, où on fait en fonction de nos capacités. Ça, c'est une réalité. Alors, nos capacités sont déjà bonnes. Tu viens d'un État membre, effectivement, où les capacités sont extrêmement bonnes. Et donc, aujourd'hui, la question, c'est comment utiliser les ressources qu'on a à notre disposition au mieux pour pouvoir faire face à tout ça. Donc, on a ces capacités, on va les utiliser. Maintenant, il est vrai que Iris au carré a une timeline où on va progressivement avoir les premiers services qui sont déployés à la fin de cette année pour avoir un déploiement complet en 2030. Je ne peux effectivement pas exclure que le travail avance plus rapidement que 2030. En tout cas, c'est la timeline qu'on s'est fixée à l'heure d'aujourd'hui, mais il ne faut pas oublier que les capacités qu'on a sont déjà très bonnes et qu'on va les utiliser au maximum.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais encore prendre quelques questions, mais je voudrais aussi donner la possibilité aux journalistes de poser des questions sur d'autres thèmes qu'ils peuvent avoir. Et de toute manière, nous avons un technical briefing important, je pense, qui va commencer à 3 heures. Mais d'abord, je vais give the floor to David, who has been raising his hand for half an hour almost.
Thanks. Is this working?
It's working. Go ahead. Yes. Not anymore. Please switch on.
Okay. Now it should be. Just one comment on behalf of our API and colleagues is it was mentioned on Rearm Europe, but it's also yesterday on the CO2 for cars, the automotive industry. It's a statement on a really important issue where there's no details later, and it's frustrating for colleagues to report on that. I have a question myself for Anna Kaiser. I don't know if we're moving to other issues now.
David, I will park your car for a second. Let me give the opportunity to 1 or 2 more questions on what we're discussing now, and then we go to yes.
Thank you, Stefan. Jerome Hughes here. Just on the subject that we're discussing, we've talked about the political consensus or agreement in terms of the incumbent politicians, but I'm just wondering, is the President confident that there will be public support for such an eye-watering amount of money? Because we've already talked about a lot of figures here already that has already been paid out. But when you're looking at a fund approaching 800 billion, it's massive. And in this context, I recall the latest figures from Eurostat on the subject of being at risk of poverty or social exclusion. I think the figure is 95 million people in the EU. That's 21% of the population. So really, we've already seen the rise of Eurosceptic politicians. You see it in the European Parliament. I'm just wondering, has there been any thought, or is there any consideration, or even any study into it from the President's point of view, that if this could backfire politically, that if there's not the public support for such huge amounts of money, that then down the road it could damage the actual EU itself when it comes to general elections and so on. Is she concerned, or is she confident that the support is there?
Thank you very much. When you take a look at the recent meetings that have taken place in the European Union with the different heads of state, it is very clear that there is a very strong support from all member states, from all heads of state, that we need to do more, that we need to do better, and that we do need to do more together in the area of defense. So there's a very strong consensus that we feel all across the European Union. What the President is doing now is to meet the moment, as she has said in the letter, and bring forward a proposal that will help the member states, that will help the European Union to live up to this moment. And now it is up to the member states, the discussion that will take place on the 6th of March, to see how things can be taken forward. But the proposal of the President is a translation, shows a way for member states to indeed help them with actually implementing this very important consensus there is to have more and better defense spending. Okay, I will take one last question on this and then we go to, to other topics.
Frestas, I see Portugal. So there is no fresh money in the sense there are no grants in this defense package. So I only see loans, and also what President von der Leyen is asking is in general for the member states or for the different member states to go into more debt, and we are talking about 800 billion debt to rearm Europe. So is this a new logic? Because this was not the logic back when we had the pandemic, and it was more money was needed to for the recovery. So is this the new logic? Europe needs to go into debt in order to rearm itself.
You will find that the proposed rearm is quite broad and wide and important proposal, but I would suggest that we discuss this topic during the technical briefing. So keep your question and we'll be happy to get back to you. Yeah.
So just one last try for a political question. Still on what the United States decided yesterday. Were you informed about this decision before it was announced? And are you, very simple questions like yes, no, are you worried about the fact that the United States is not going to help Ukraine tomorrow?
What matters in the current situation is that we stand united and firm and strong and in full solidarity with Ukraine, and that is what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing, for instance, through this very important rearm proposal. All right, listen, I see that Gian Volpicelli, you had raised your hands on this topic. You'll be the last one, and then we take other questions. Sorry.
Do you hear me?
I hear you, but I don't see you.
Ah, crap. I don't know why. Video, select camera, this one?
Oh, yes. There you are. Hey.
Final question on this. What's going on? A final question about this satellite thing, because I'm not sure I caught Thomas' answer entirely. If I understand correctly, Govsatcom is about secure communications, especially governmental communications. Starlink has been used for 2 years to steer drones on a battlefield to attack military targets. I want to know, I would like to know if possible, if Govsatcom's capabilities are apt to sustain such a usage. Can Govsatcom be used for the kind of activities such as drone piloting or reconnaissance Starlink is being used for right now? And I'd also like to ask, is at the same topic, whether the use of Govsatcom for military purposes would need the green light of the governments that are part of this Govsatcom scheme. So can you just say, yeah, Ukraine is going to use Govsatcom for military activities without Italy, Germany, or France giving their consent?
Thanks, Jan. Very precise questions indeed. On the second one, I will have to get back to you. Indeed, as you say yourself, there is a strong member state component here, as this is a pooling and sharing of existing member states' competences. So there, I will get back to you. On the first one, hard for me to compare Starlink and Govsatcom and what the one offers and the second one. Indeed, Govsatcom is mainly about secure connectivity. There again, I will get back to you if I have more to share.
Thank you, and I will now open the floor to other questions on other topics. If you still have questions on this, don't hesitate to reach out to us or follow the technical briefing, which I warmly recommend. Raise your hands if you have other topics, and I believe that David, you had a question for Anna Kaiser.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
We hear and even see you. Very good.
So it's a question on a meeting online with US companies or officials and the Commission on the methane emissions regulation. I was wondering if equivalence is that still something that's being discussed, and also, is there not a real danger that discussions now that the methane requirements that could be seen as something that would anger our US allies, especially Trump? I mean, is it not the time to be sort of pushing these demands, or is that something that's on the road that's going to continue from 2030? And can you just update us on the general procedure for the implementing legislation that's coming on that?
Thanks a lot. So just to clarify a few points there. So today's meeting online, it's at a technical level. It is a workshop that will take place between experts from DG Ener and representatives of US companies. And this workshop that is taking place this afternoon is part of our ongoing engagement with US companies as well as others on methane emission abatement. We had 2 open public workshops on this on the import requirements last October. And the information on these meetings, especially because they were held openly, people could attend online. All the information is available on DG Ener website. Today's meeting is on invitation only. We do not, therefore, have a similar information available now. Following the meeting, the previous 2 meetings that took place in October, we published an extensive Q&A both to benefit the US participants as well as to inform the audiences here what was being discussed. And again, today it's a technical workshop. It is not a negotiation. It is basically just taking stock to have an understanding, because a mutual understanding of what the precise requirements are. Because as from this year, there is a requirement to our importers of gas, oil and coal to provide us with data on the emissions. So therefore, we consider it important that we keep having this dialogue with oil and gas industry. It is important for the smooth implementation of this regulation, and that is the context in which this online workshop at technical level is taking place this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions for Anna Kaiser? Not in the room. David, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, could you just answer on which companies are taking part? And then the second part is the potential for this methane emissions regulation for deteriorating relations with the US, you know, especially if we hear Trump talking about drill, baby, drill, that sort of thing. Thank you.
I do not have the list of invited US companies. I can look into that, but I do not have it at my disposal as of now. And to the second one, again, I would not draw a very far-reaching conclusions conclusions of today's meeting, which is a technical meeting to take stock and discuss. It is not a negotiation. It is part of an ongoing dialogue with the US partners, but we have the similar meetings also with others. So this is not a specific, any kind of one-off thing that we decided to have. It is part of an ongoing dialogue. It is taking place today. It is on a technical level. We have lots of similar meetings with all our counterparts to ensure that our legislation is smoothly implemented, because this particular legislation, as many others, has consequences, direct consequences to our companies, our external companies and importers who are impacted by the law.
Thank you, Anna Kaiser. Any other questions for Anna Kaiser? Tom Weingartner? Sorry. And you as well. Okay. 1 second. I will first take Tom's question and I go to you.
It's just after this workshop, do we get any communication from the Commission?
Do we get any communication?
Well, it's not a meeting where discussions would be taking place, where we usually always provide a readout. It's a workshop between technical experts. So we would not have a regular meeting readout from this, no.
Thank you. You had a question for Anna.
Between technical experts. So we would not have a regular meeting readout from this, no.
Thank you. You had a question for Anna Kaiser.
Valentina Vasileva, Voice of America. My question is maybe more broad, but yesterday Donald Trump said that Europe spent much more money for buying Russian oil and gas during these years than to support Ukraine. So we already know that the EU spent 140 billion euros to support Ukraine. Do you have figure how much the EU spent to buy Russian oil and gas during these 3 years? And if you can comment this statement, it will be great. Thank you.
I am not going to comment the statement, and I do not have such figure because EU is not buying anything. It is the member states, and more specifically, it is the companies that have these contracts. So I do not have such a number.
All right. Shall we switch to other topics now? Yes.
Une question pour Anwar, si tu veux bien, sur Gaza. Israël continue de bloquer les aides humanitaires à Gaza. Ne considérons même pas le mois de Ramadan. Ma question est la suivante. Est-ce que l'Union européenne fournit des efforts diplomatiques, par exemple, pour essayer de convaincre Israël de respecter ses propres engagements en vertu du droit international? Deuxièmement, relié à la même question, est-ce que l'Union européenne considère que le blocage des aides humanitaires est une violation du droit international, premièrement? Deuxièmement, ça peut relever du crime de guerre, comme l'a estimé la Cour de justice internationale à plusieurs reprises. Merci.
Merci Nourdine pour la question. Écoute, l'Union européenne réitère son appel en faveur d'un accès total et sans entrave de l'aide humanitaire dans la bande de Gaza, afin que cette aide puisse être effectivement distribuée aux personnes dans le besoin. Pour cela, il est essentiel que le cessez-le-feu soit pleinement mis en œuvre pour permettre la libération de tous les otages et assurer une cessation permanente des hostilités. L'Union européenne appelle également à une reprise rapide des négociations sur la deuxième phase du cessez-le-feu et exprime son ferme soutien aux médiateurs. Quand il s'agit de ta question avec l'angle de la Cour internationale de justice, permets-moi de rappeler les conclusions du Conseil européen de juin dernier, dans lesquelles le Conseil européen a exprimé son entière solidarité et soutien à Israël et à son peuple, et réaffirme son engagement total en faveur de sa sécurité et sa stabilité régionale. Dans l'exercice de son droit à Israël de se défendre, le Conseil européen a également rappelé qu'Israël doit respecter pleinement les obligations qui lui incombent en vertu du droit international, y compris le droit international humanitaire en toutes circonstances. Et s'agissant du dernier point de l'aide humanitaire, je vais ici réitérer les conclusions du Conseil européen de décembre 2024, dans lesquelles le Conseil a renouvelé son appel à un cessez-le-feu immédiat, à la libération sans condition de tous les otages et également à l'amélioration urgente, et c'est ce qui t'intéresse dans le cadre de ta question, de l'accès de l'aide humanitaire et à la distribution continue de celle-ci à grande échelle dans toute la bande de Gaza, ainsi qu'à une cessation durable des hostilités conformément à la résolution 2735 du Conseil de sécurité des Nations Unies. J'espère que cela t'éclaire un peu.
Merci. Follow-up.
Noir, tout ça c'est très joli, tout ça c'est très bien, c'est juste les déclarations du sommet européen ou bien du Conseil. L'Union européenne a des positions fermes sur des tas de sujets qui concernent les paramètres de la paix dans la région. Mais dans la réalité, c'est qu'au moment où l'Union européenne, à juste titre, mobilise toutes ses ressources économiques, militaires, pour venir en aide pour le respect du droit international en Ukraine. L'Union européenne, malheureusement, fait le minimum du minimum quand il s'agit des Palestiniens. C'est comme si le droit international, il y a des peuples qui sont en première classe, first class, pour le droit international, qui sont les Ukrainiens, par exemple, qu'ils ont tout le droit de récupérer leurs terres, etc. Il n'y a aucune question, aucune interrogation là-dessus. Et qu'il y a d'autres peuples, comme le peuple palestinien, c'est un peuple de seconde classe, où le droit international ne s'applique pas. Vous recevez le ministre israélien après un an de massacre et sans conclusion concrète, sans impact qu'on voit de l'Union européenne sur le cours des choses au Moyen-Orient. Je trouve tout de même que l'Union européenne devient de plus en plus vraiment la championne du double standard. Tu permets, je suis désolé pour le commentaire, mais c'est la vérité.
Merci Nourdine pour ton commentaire. Ne t'excuse absolument pas. Cette salle de presse est celle de la liberté d'expression et on respecte tout à fait cela parce que c'est votre profession. Bien que je respecte ta position, je m'inscris totalement en faux de ce commentaire-là. En termes de double standard, tu as rappelé les positions de l'Union européenne en pointant du doigt une potentielle dichotomie entre ces positions-là et la réalité. La réalité, c'est que ces positions-là sont l'action diplomatique de l'Union européenne et des États membres, puisque j'ai mentionné les conclusions du Conseil européen qui sont le niveau suprême, comme tu le sais, au niveau hiérarchique. Je n'ai rien d'autre à ajouter quand il s'agit de notre engagement sur le terrain. Je pense que les positions et également les chiffres parlent d'eux-mêmes depuis le 7 octobre et les conséquences dans la région. Donc voilà, on continue à en parler si tu le veux d'une manière bilatérale, mais je m'inscris encore une fois totalement en faux quand il s'agit de ta position, que je respecte.
Merci. D'autres questions pour Anwar? Anwar? Go ahead.
Thank you, David Price, Geo Democracy. We've seen videos of what happens when the aid comes into Gaza, that sometimes it's taken over by gangs, and apparently, according to the authorities, these gangs are controlled by Hamas, and they take the aid and sell it as a profit. So the aid is going in, as the financing is also helping Hamas, which is a terrorist organization as far as the EU is concerned, to bolster their finances. Also, money is being smuggled in these aid trucks. Can you say what measures are taken to prevent this happening, and what have been the results so far?
Thank you very much, David, for your question. We have had the chance to actually exchange on the issue bilaterally and also here in the press room. Look, our position is clear. This is what I have already actually mentioned, that we have been reiterating our call for the urgent improvement and access of sustained distribution of humanitarian assistance at scale throughout Gaza. That's what I can say at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Anwar? Bogdan, is it for Anwar?
Hi, no, sorry, it's for about critical materials and defense, but I'm afraid I will not have the chance to ask any questions today. So I will wait, or if you allow me.
Go ahead, ask your question.
So it's a linked question about critical materials and defense. I would like to understand the general approach, how deep this rearm plan goes. For example, if the plan includes also the whole supply and production chain for materials needed in defense industry, like critical materials, maybe extracted from European soil, maybe from Ukraine. And the second question, 2 weeks ago, when the Commission was presenting the competitiveness plan, if I'm not mistaken, there was a stated target for opening 12 new mining projects for critical materials in Europe. I want to know if the Commission has a clear view of the potential resources or areas with critical materials in Europe, and how these projects are going to be selected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think on your first question, I would invite you to warmly invite you to connect to our technical briefing. On the second question, I am looking at my colleagues. We'll get back to you. All right. Thank you. Mose, you've been waiting for some time.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. I would like to ask a very specific questions because I heard that you mentioned at the beginning that there is a Swedish journalist group of visitors in the press room. So this is related to Sweden and the start of the annual hunt of lynxes, or lodjur in Swedish. We started on the 1st of March because there have been complaints by wildlife activists in Sweden against this hunting, which is considered illegal and not in compliance with the EU Habitats Directive. So already last year there was a complaint about it, and now recently we heard that another organization also sent a complaint to start the infringement procedure against Sweden because it claims that that's a reference number for the minimum number of lynxes which Sweden is obliged to preserve, and which was the situation when Sweden became a member state in 1995, is much higher than the reported value. So I wonder what is the status of the first complaint, which was launched already last year, and have you received the new complaint against this annual hunt of lynxes or lodjur in Sweden? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to ask a question which may be of interest to some of our visitors. I don't know whether we can go into the depth of all your questions, but Maciej is here to tell us what we can share with you.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, Mose. Thank you for your question. I don't think we can comment on the infringement procedures ongoing. I can comment on the Lynx status and its actually protection status that is in the interest of Swedish participants. We haven't received any complaints yet, but what I can say is indeed that the lynx is strictly protected species under the Habitats Directive of the European Union. However, the Habitats Directive allows to authorize the capture of killing of protected species under very strict conditions, including when acting in the interest of public health and public safety. What I can also say is that derogation is only possible when there is no other economically or technically viable alternative, and in any case it cannot threaten the favorable conservation status of the species population. This means clearly that Sweden will need to respect the conditions which are actually laid out in the Article 16 of the Habitats Directive if it proceeds with the hunting of lynx. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will now take the last question from Yossi Lemkovic.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question, follow-up to a previous question from David Price regarding the aid to Gaza, the humanitarian aid. I have to make a point. I understand the EU is reiterating every time the importance of the humanitarian aid going into Gaza. But you have to know that before Israel's decision to stop this, because Hamas is not willing to continue the deal, every day there were 700 trucks entering Gaza. But the problem is that Hamas is stealing this aid, the food, and selling it, and the money is used to rearm. So what is the European Union doing to stop this trend?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anwar already talked about Gaza. Obviously, the situation there is very volatile. and we are very concerned about it. And as you rightly pointed out, there were hundreds of trucks coming daily to Gaza. Now, decision of Israel makes it much more complicated. I would like to point out that we call all the parties to enable the access to Gaza and enable the access of the humanitarian aid, also to make the humanitarians able to do their job. If you speak about stealing and about the misuse of the humanitarian aid, I can say that we work with our partners, we work with the United Nations, and the projects of the humanitarian agencies on the ground are a subject of a very strict control. We also have people on the ground, so we try to avoid these situations.
Thank you very much. And with this, we've come to the end of today's midday briefing. Thank you very much. And stay tuned or connected, or please follow our interesting technical briefings. Thank you.